Adam, in Christmases past, what has been your recollection of that first game back after Christmas? Usually we get the speech that it might take a period or two to get into it, or can you afford to do that against a team like Ottawa?
Well, I feel like years past, this is kind of one of the first ones where we've actually had a practice, and then we'll have a morning skate. So I'd expect it to be a little sharper than, last year's game. We're in Chicago. You travel and you go for morning skate, and then those days usually feel a little jammed, kind of feeling your way through the first period. So, both teams are playing well. I did expect, it to be a pretty well-played game. I think, having the practice day definitely helps that.
And even though it's been 3 or 4 days, you just mentioned, the team played very well in the wins over Minnesota and Toronto. How much can you bring in tomorrow night for that to be effective?
Well, I think the structure and what we did well in both those games is going to be important moving forward. I think, really did a good job limiting the rush chances, limiting, their high-end players, and kind of denying the good ice or good areas of the ice. And special teams has continued to play a big role. The power play, scored a big goal to get us off to a great start. So, those pieces of the game where we're going to look to carry into the game against Ottawa tomorrow.
The schedule you guys have had, Adam, what did a 4-day break between games feel like?
Yeah, it's different. It's nice. I think usually on that second, third day, your body almost gets a little more sore. It's like, I got time to recover. So it was nice to spend some time with family and kind of take a mental break from the game. We've been traveling, haven't got to spend a lot of time at home. So it was nice to kind of step away from the rink. And, I feel like everyone is back. They're refreshed, excited to get this next push to the Four Nations kind of break, underway. And, we've got a real good test in Ottawa, and then coming up with that back-to-back in Nashville and Colorado. So, it's going to be important we get off to a good start tomorrow night.
You mentioned not a lot of time at home, but you're going to get 10 of your next 11 here at home. You guys have done a really good job of kind of reasserting some dominance on home ice this year, and obviously that's something you want to try and take advantage of over the next few weeks.
Yeah, home ice is critical. You want to take advantage of these games. You can control the matchups. You want to perform well in front of the fans, and so I think for the most part we've played pretty well. There's been a couple of games we haven't loved at home, but for the most part we've been able to kind of get to our game plan, get to our forecheck, and our power play has been red hot at home. I don't know the numbers, but it feels like they've been clicking every time we've stepped on the ice. So. Having this stretch where you don't have to travel as much and you get some more practice time, I think, it's going to be invaluable for us.
35.1% at home, and you've scored in 2/3 of your games. And I know you're not on the power play, but Adam, how valuable a weapon is that to have that kind of consistency at such a high rate?
Yeah, it's awesome. I think it's a thing that you're never really out of games, and it's a thing that can start games on the right foot for you. It seems like we've been able to get early leads, get a power play early in the game, or we haven't had a lot going for us, and our power play has been able to get some momentum, score a big goal, get the crowd into it, generate some chances. So finding ways to score. It's a tough league to score 5-on-5, so anytime you can get impactful contributions from your special team, it's huge.
We sometimes hear that the intensity level picks up after Christmas. Is that a fact or just a bit of a cliche myth, or is that real?
Well, I think there's some more urgency. Obviously, the playoff picture starts to shake out, and teams kind of, sometimes in October, April seems real far away, and you feel like you might have time to make up some of those points. So, I think the hockey gets better. Generally, teams get to their structure. They've kind of ironed out some of the kinks or some of their weaknesses earlier in the year. So ice is harder to come by. It's harder to generate some chances. And, generally the teams that feel like they're in the race, they add. And, so the top half of the league seems to improve. And, it's a tough league to win in. But I would say I think it's more, the urgency of, how critical the points are, and with the end kind of seemingly coming up, that you get team's best most nights.
Yeah, you've got some good rivalries with Canadian teams. I don't know that you have one with Ottawa. Do you? How does that feel?
No, I think it's one of those ones where teams playing in the East, you just don't see them as much. I think obviously the year with the Canadian division, but without fans and kind of to build that hatred. But watching them over the last couple of weeks, they're a great team. They've got a lot of depth. Adding Allmark in nets has really solidified that position for them, and so we're going to have to be ready. They skate well. They've got some real high-end skill, and they've got some big bodies that like to go to the nets. So, there might not be the rivalry that like we have with some other teams, but it's still going to be a hard-fought game.
Just one on Dylan Sandberg. I know he didn't join the full group yet, but the fact he's back on the ice, obviously his importance to what you guys are all about can't be overstated. So to get him back must be a nice sign.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think it's such an unfortunate injury. He's doing what he does best, blocking shots. So critical to our success on the PK, and to see him back on the ice, it's a great sign for us. It's a big hole in our lineup, and some guys have really stepped up. I think Fleur, up until him getting hurt himself, but had really played well, kind of stepping into that role. And there was some unknowns with losing Dilly, losing Schmitty, and having guys step up into their roles. But Villy, Stan, they've all played really well, and kind of their opportunities that they've been given. So in the meantime, with Sambi out and for Fleur out for we're not sure how long, we kind of expect the same. And even Cogs, the game he played in Vegas, I thought he played really well. So it's one of those things you hate to have injuries, but it's it's really kind of allowed us to lean on our depth. Have those guys get comfortable, and come playoff time, come the springtime, you generally need 6, 7, 8 guys on the back end to be contributing.